Good morning, everybody. I am so excited to be here. We're doing the Healing Your Heart and Soul from Betrayal 2-hour clinic with some of my favorite experts in the world. And before we actually get started, I'd love to know where you're all from. So if you could just put in the chat 2 things, the city you're coming from, and if you've read The Love Thief, just put yes. Could you do that now? Just put in the chat, where are you? And if you've read The Love Thief, put in yes. And I'm gonna see if I can figure, oh, look, London, San Francisco, New York, Toronto, Seattle, LA, Switzerland, oh my God, Boynton Beach, Virginia Beach, El Dorado Hills. This is fantastic. I'm so glad you're all here. Well, as you're letting me know whether or not you've read The Love Thief yet, I want to tell you a little bit about the book for those of you who haven't read it. It's a spiritual romantic thriller with a juicy revenge subplot and a surprise happy ending. And I wrote this book because I had so many girlfriends that had been in relationships with toxic narcissists and had been betrayed and been heartbroken and had their dreams crushed and went through this roller coaster of emotions from, extreme anger and rage to, soul-wrenching grief and sadness and depression. And I was on the other end of the phone so many times going, you're going to get through this. It's going to get better. And then I thought, I'm just going to write a book about it because not only have I personally lived it, but here are my 3 closest girlfriends who've lived these nightmare situations. And I thought I want to tell it in a way that is both funny at times, but also life-changing, life-enhancing, and has spiritual depth to it. And one of the reviewers of my book said the book is like Eat, Pray, Love meets Dirty John. And that's truly exactly what it is. And for those of you who have never heard of Dirty John, it was 3 different movies of the week and a series about a man who trolled this woman on Facebook, love bombed her, fell in love with her, and ultimately her daughter had to kill him because he was so crazy. So it's kind of extreme. But what we're going to talk about today is how to heal your heart and soul from the betrayal of, if it was a lover, great, or it could be betrayal of a friend or a business partner or a family member. And I've got with me 2 experts that so inform the book. The first guest is going to be Sadhviji Bhagwati Saraswati, which is a mouthful. She is one of my best friends in the world. She's a holy woman from India, and I'm going to introduce you to her formally in just a second. The other expert guest is my dear friend, Dr. Debbie Silber, who's a psychotherapist and a total expert on betrayal. She was my go-to person as I was writing the book. I was like, oh my God, Debbie, he's just going to do this. How do you deal with this? What is this? Because I don't have a PhD. Maybe I should have a PhD in career change because I've had so many different careers in the world, but I don't have a PhD in people's emotional issues, which she does. So you are going to get the wisdom and the blessings of both of them today. Before I get into the formal part, I want to show you a picture. Okay, so let me see if Christine, can people see this well? Okay, so here, what we're looking at here, this is Jennifer Aniston, Halle Berry, Beyonce, Christy Brinkley, Sandra Bullock, Mariah Carey, Princess Di, Jennifer Garner, Ava Longoria, Maria Shriver, Gwen Stefani, Uma Thurman, Melania Trump, and Reese Witherspoon. Okay, now what do these women have in common? They're all beautiful, they're all rich, they all have a size 2 body, they're all, lots of women aspire to be like them. And the truth is, they've all been publicly betrayed. They've all had their hearts broken and crushed by toxic narcissists. So if that's happened to you and you're thinking, oh, if only I were thinner, richer, more beautiful, younger, this wouldn't happen to me. I wanted you to see, and that's not all of them. Those are just the ones I could easily think of and get pictures of. This happens to everybody. And it happens to really smart, attractive, caring, loving, kind women. In fact, if it's happened to you, I sometimes say, quasi-jokingly, it means you're special, because these guys don't go after ordinary women. And we'll talk about that more later. So in a moment, I want to bring on Sadhviji, as we call her. I met Sadhviji in Rishikesh, India, where most of the story of the love thief takes place. And I met her on an evening at the end of what they call arti. All the gurus and sadhus and monks were out on the banks of the Ganga chanting with music. It was absolutely beautiful. And when the ceremony was over, she walked past me and I thought, oh, who's this American woman in orange robes? And she looked straight at me and she said, would you like to meet the guru? And I said, yes, of course. And she said, well, follow me. And I said, but I have 12 friends with me. And she said, bring them on. And that was in November of 2020. We met and she became a sister instantly. She's just amazing, amazing. But here's her formal introduction. I'm just going to read it to you. Sadhvi is a PhD, spiritual leader, motivational speaker, author, and social activist. She's based in PARMARTH, NIKETAN, Rishikesh in the Himalayas in India. She's originally from LA. She's a graduate of Stanford. And she's been in India for more than 26 years, where she gives spiritual discourses, satsang, meditation, and leads myriad humanitarian programs around the world. She serves as a unique female voice of spiritual leadership throughout India and the world. And she's often at the United Nations and speaking on stages where almost always she's the only woman spiritual leader on the stage. She's really special. She got to India. She didn't plan to go to India. She was not a seeker. What she was a foodie for vegan food. And she ended up in India, and she ended up getting lost and walking through the grounds of an ashram where all kinds of amazing things happened to her, including meeting her guru. Now, why did she need a guru? She didn't know she needed a guru, but she had a lifetime of pain. She was sexually and emotionally abused by her birth father. She suffered with drug addiction and bulimia. She was in and out of mental hospitals during her life. And even though she was a super smart Stanford grad, she had inner pain, which she is going to share with us today, how you can heal your inner pain. She's also the author. Let me get the book. This is her memoir. It's called Hollywood to the Himalayas, A Journey of Healing and Transformation. And it is a page turner of a book. It's a memoir that reads like a novel. It's absolutely stunning. And Hollywood to the Himalayas. So, Sadhviji, thank you for joining us. I'm so thrilled you're here. And please share with us your wisdom for healing from betrayal, from heartbreak, healing the spirit and the soul.
Such a joy, Arielle, to be with you, to be with this whole community coming together. Let's just take a moment, and if it's safe wherever you are, just close your eyes for a moment. Just allow yourself to really arrive into this space. Arrive into this moment. Arrive into your own breath and into your own heart. Just allow yourself to arrive right here, right now. Into your heart. and allow your awareness to merge into your breath. Don't try to change it. There's nothing to do. It's just an allowing of that power of attention, that awareness. Allow it to just merge with your breath. As the breath flows in and flows out. And on your exhalations, as you exhale, just allow yourself to gently let go. There's so much we hold on to. And as you exhale, just gently give it back to the universe, whatever it may be. Anger, pain, a false identification, a story you tell yourself, a mask, a role that you play, some expectation you're holding on to. As you exhale, just give it back to the universe and allow yourself to just sink deeper and deeper into the core of yourself. Slowly and gently. Allow the eyes to open, but allow yourself to stay anchored and grounded in that presence, in that awareness, and in that active letting go. I begin with this because chances are what you're going to hear today, we may share some, data you haven't heard before or a story you haven't heard before, but this isn't rocket science. Chances are you've heard some aspect, some version, some reflection of that which you're going to hear today. And yet, we don't let it in. It doesn't shift us. And that's why it's so important to really, as we embark on this beautiful morning together or afternoon or evening, wherever you may be, to really make sure that we're coming into it with a really open heart, open to receive, open to be touched and transformed. So as Arielle began so beautifully with Holly's story, so many of us have read the book, and if you haven't, I very strongly urge you to get out and get a copy. It's a fantastic read. She's betrayed. She's betrayed by a lover who's going to be her beautiful knight in shining armor, who's going to whisk her off to the land of happily ever after. She's betrayed by her best friend. And it's a betrayal that even if it doesn't mirror exactly what we've been through, every one of us can relate. Every one of us has had some experience in our life of being betrayed. The question becomes, why? Why does it happen? And when it does happen, what to do about it? How do we move on? So I thought I would take this beautiful, beautiful opportunity today to talk about the why it happens. Why do we even get betrayed? I mean, we're good people. We're nice people. We mean well. We're full of love and care and tenderness. It's very rare that any of us says, "Oh yeah, you know, I was just awful. I really deserved to be betrayed." It's usually by those to whom we've given so much of ourselves, of our hearts. So why? Why does it happen? And then what to do when it happens? And then how do we move on? So the why, the what, and the how. Beginning with the why. Arielle and I have had, over the course of our beautiful, beautiful friendship, so many conversations about karma and destiny, and why does betrayal happen? Is it written karmically somehow into our destiny that we are going to be betrayed? Well, yes and yes, meaning it's not all actually about you. The law of karma gives us a view of a tapestry that is much, much bigger than this momentary intersection of time and space. I was betrayed by this guy or this person or this situation. That's a current intersection of time and space. Karmic? Absolutely. And yet, isolated? No. Karma, you know, we talk sometimes about it being like a boomerang. What you do comes back to you. And it's a good way to raise obedient children. It's a good way to sort of scare people into behaving nicely. But the law of karma is actually much, much more intricate, much vaster. And it involves so many factors, so many threads that are more than just, well, I was a nice person. I was honest. I was giving. I was caring. I was loyal. Why did I get this awful situation in return? And there's a great story, one of my absolute favorite stories, perhaps my all-time favorite story around karma and betrayal, which comes from the Ramayana, but it also comes, it ventures into other beautiful scriptures. So I'll tell an abbreviated version of the story. The story begins, well, the way I'm going to tell it begins, with a king, King Dashrath, who is a very good king. He's the king of Ayodhya, and he has no children. Very much wants children, wants especially sons who will carry on the kingdom, who's going to become king after him. And he has several wives, but from these wives, he's not able to have children. Now, like in a movie or like in beautiful novels, we flash from this moment, we flash to a young man named Shravan Kumar, who's a beautiful, beautiful young man whose parents are blind. And he's taking his parents on pilgrimage because in so many religious traditions, the Hindu tradition notwithstanding, going on religious pilgrimage is considered a great boon, something that people really, really want to do, like going to Jerusalem or going to Mecca or going to so many other sacred places. So Shravan Kumar is carrying his blind parents on pilgrimage. He leaves them in a hermitage along the way, and he goes to the river to fetch some water. As he's fetching water, King Dashrath, this king of Ayodhya who can't have children, is hunting. He hears a sound by the river and he thinks it's a deer. So he pulls back the arrow on his bow and he shoots it. And it hits Shravan Kumar. He rushes around the bushes to see what he hit. And he sees this young man by the river. His lifeblood is draining out of him. And Shravan Kumar tells the king, he says, my life is over. There's nothing you can do for me. But my parents are blind and they're back in the hermitage. Can you please bring them this bucket of water? They're waiting. And please tell them what has happened. Now you imagine King Dashrath having to go back and to tell Shravan Kumar's parents what he's done. But he goes. And Shravan Kumar's parents curse him, curse the king, that just like we are dying of a broken heart today due to the loss of our son, so you will die from a broken heart due to the loss of your son. Now, he doesn't have any sons, but these holy people, these beautiful, pure people, it's believed in the Vedic tradition that, you don't have to be a saint or a mystic or a yogi to be able to issue blessings or curses. You just have to have a pure heart and be connected to the divine. So this curse that his parents give to the king now goes out energetically into the universe. It must manifest. So fast forward a few decades. King Dashrath has had sons. One of those sons is named Ram. If anybody's ever heard of Ram or Hanuman or Sita, this is the Ram from the Ramayana. And on the day that Ram is about to be coronated as king, King Dashrath is now in his elder years. Ram is clearly this epitome, embodiment of integrity, divinity, perfection. Ram is worshipped as this perfect son, brother, husband. The day that Ram is going to be coronated, King Dashrath's wife, one of his wives, comes to him and says, you remember those 2 promises that you owe me? Well, I want them today. And the 2 promises are, number 1, instead of Ram being coronated as king, my son, Bharat, is going to be coronated. 2, Ram must be sent into exile in the forest for 14 years. She doesn't want any threat to the reign of her son. Now, the king had several wives. Everybody was brought up together like one big extended family. But, in our minds and in our hearts, we tend to think small a lot and we have separation. So she wants the boy who came from her womb to be king. Ram should be exiled. So Ram gets sent off into the forest. That's the Ramayana. He meets Hanuman along the way. That's a different story. I won't go into it now. But here's the point. As Ram walks off from the kingdom into the forest in exile, covered not in royal regal gowns, not with carriages or chariots, but covered in leaves and twigs, the clothes of a mendicant, with nothing. his father, King Dashrath, starts to die of a broken heart. And as he's on his deathbed, he calls out to Shravan Kumar. Now, no one, of course, has any idea what he's talking about. Nobody knew of the kid he had shot with his arrow in the forest decades ago. But he knows. He knows that this is all part of that which needed to happen based on what had happened in the forest so long ago. And I share this story with you today because one of these core questions that always gets asked is, why Ram? Ram was this literal embodiment, epitome of goodness. Worship thousands and thousands of years later, scripture is written about him. I mean, we think we're good. We think we're kind and compassionate and loyal. Ram had scriptures written about him, worshipped, temples dedicated to him as the epitome of goodness. And what does he get? Betrayal. Betrayal by his stepmother, who he had called mom his whole life, whose feet he had touched. Betrayal of his father, it seemed. How could he take this promise he had made over his own son? Forget a promise, who cares? Ultimate betrayal. Not only not being coronated, but being sent off into the jungle to perish, to starve, to be attacked by wild animals. But it all had to happen when you see the full tapestry of karma. So this story is my favorite in illustrating how the tapestry works. In a lot of cases, we don't know why. And in a lot of cases, it doesn't really matter. What matters is here we are now. The Ramayana is not about the story of Shravan Kumar. It's about the story of a young man who, through no fault of his own, through something that happened long before he was even born, is now subject to this injustice, but how he takes it. There's a great parable of a young girl who complains to her dad about the trials and tribulations and problems she's facing and obstacles she's facing and hurdles in life from friends at school who are not being nice. And the dad takes her into the kitchen and he puts a pot of water on the stove and waits for it to boil. And into the pot of water, he puts a carrot, an egg, and some coffee beans. And he lets it boil for a few minutes. And afterwards, he shows the girl what's happened. The carrot has become soft and squishy. The egg has become hard. And the coffee beans have turned the water into beautiful coffee with a beautiful aroma that now can be drank. And he says to her, it's not about what happens to you. It's about, are you a carrot, an egg, or coffee? When troubles afflict you, do you become soft and limp? Do you become hard with a shell around you? Or do you become fragrant, bringing that aroma to everyone? So when we say something is karmic, yes, it is. And yes, in this moment where we are, where we find ourselves, what choices do we make? It's also really important to realize when we talk about karma that, as I said, it's not all about you. Those who are betraying you, well, they're just going through their own karmic journey. In Holly's case, he was a crook. Not only was he a narcissist, a toxic narcissist, he was a criminal. He had his own karmic package. She was collateral damage, you could say. And the same happens a lot in our lives. People can only bring to situations what they have. If inside me there's anger, there's pain, there's impatience, there's frustration, there's dysfunction, that's what I'm going to bring to every situation. My favorite example of this is an air conditioner, right? What does it do? It gives you cold air. Now that's great in June, July, August, May in India. Not so good in January. But if you stand in front of an air conditioner in January and you get pneumonia, it's not because the air conditioner was somehow out to get you, or the manufacturer of that air conditioner, plotted and planned your downfall. It's because that's all the air conditioner has. It's got cold air. Even if it wanted to, it couldn't give you heat because it doesn't have it. And a lot of times when people hurt us and betray us, that's their karmic package in this moment. I always say everybody is moving through the world with a toolbox. What is in that toolbox is based on their karmic package. Do they have compassion? Do they have caring? Do they have tenderness? Do they have love? Do they have generosity? Or do they have selfishness, aggression, violence, dishonesty, impulsiveness, meanness even? You're going to get whatever's in that toolbox because that's what that person has. So when we think about karma, we think both the threads of our own karma, the threads of a much, much, much bigger karma, and the threads of the karma of the person who actually has done this to us. So that helps understand, okay, why? Great. Karmically had to happen. But now what? Now what do we do? Well, most of us want to kill that person or seriously harm them. I mean, in some cases, killing may seem too gentle. A lot of us want them to suffer a lot more than they would by just being killed. We want to make them suffer. We want to show them. We want to hurt them. We want to make them know what they've done. We want to hurt them like they've hurt us. And of course, all that does is hurt us more, right? They always say that plotting revenge is like drinking poison and expecting the other guy to die. So when you think about what to do, I've created an acronym for you all for today. And the acronym is HEAL, HEAL. It came to me as I was taking a beautiful walk through the forest this morning as the sun was rising. And I was thinking, what to do specifically? How do we heal? So the H of HEAL, and I love acronyms because it makes things a lot easier to remember. So the H of HEAL stands for honing in and honoring the truth of who you really are. Because when we are mixed up with someone who is a narcissist, we tend to lose ourselves. We forget who we are in all of this. We become just in relationship to them. And so when you've been betrayed, it's really important to remember, who am I? Who really am I? Practices like meditation, yoga, prayer, contemplation, of course, are, the cornerstone practices for this type of work. But also things like helping others, because what a lot of us lose in relationship with narcissists and in a lot of other relationships where we are taken advantage of is we only serve that person. And we forget the gifts that we have to bring to the universe. And so honing in and honoring the self includes that deep, quiet inner work. And it also includes re-remembering, what are your gifts? Do you make music? Do you make art? Can you bake? Are you good with children? Are you good with your hands in gardens? Can you serve in some way? Can you bring love to another? Because that reminds us, oh yeah, I'm a valuable human being, even though I may have been manipulated to think otherwise. So H stands for honing in and honoring that self in all of those ways. E stands for embrace. Embracing our friends, our family members, not the best friend like the one Holly had who was complicit in the betrayal and deception, but real friends. Those who can mirror back to us who we really are. Because again, a lot of us lose it. We lose it in the relationship first, and then we lose it in the betrayal because we literally end up becoming obsessed, consumed by that which has happened, by the story, by the drama, by our identification as a victim. And so close friends and family people who really know you, can reflect back, can mirror who you are that isn't in relationship to that person or this particular situation. They can help you find your way back to the fullness, the wholeness, the completeness of yourself. A stands for awareness. There's no right way to grieve. A lot of us, especially who are, really into and excited by and inspired by a lot of different self-help or development or motivational things, we want to follow a step thing, like someone should tell us how to grieve. Okay, here are your steps. And yes, people like Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and others have given us maps. But there's no one path to walk that's right for everyone. Everyone does it differently. So the A stands for awareness and also allowing yourself to grieve, whether it's grieving of a person, whether it's grieving of an idea, grieving of a hope, a dream, an expectation, a fantasy vision you've created of what life is going to be like. Allow yourself to grieve in the way that is right for you. We talk a lot about self-care. And these are all aspects of self-care. When we are trying to box ourselves up, you must do it like this. Okay, you've hit the 14-day mark. Now it's time to go on to step 2. We're not really seeing and caring for the being we are. So allow your own process to unfold. And the L, of course, stands for let go. Because that's the critical aspect. We have to come to a place where we can let it go. Otherwise, it eats us up. It steals our lives. And literally, that betrayal becomes the defining moment, the paralyzing moment, the poisoning moment, the killing moment of our lives. So we have to let it go. Think about if you were walking down the street and somebody stabbed you. God forbid, but just imagine it for a moment. Literally, with a knife, somebody stabbed you. What would you do? Would you try to chase that guy down the street? Would you get everybody on the street to run after that guy and catch him? Or would you try to get everybody on the street to help you get to a hospital, to get the knife up, to stop up the bleeding, to keep you alive? Deal with that guy later on. For right now, you've got to be sure to take care of yourself. And that's what self-care means, is the awareness that regardless of what this person has done to me, I've been wounded. Whether they hurt me physically, emotionally, psychologically, financially, spiritually, whatever level, I've been wounded. But to run after them, literally, or just with all of my mental time and energy, is the equivalent of running after the person who stabbed you while you bleed to death in the street. Take those resources, take that energy, and use it to heal. That person's going to get whatever their karmic due is. We're not the karmic police. We don't have to make sure that people get their karmic due. And that brings us into this L of letting go. And that's why it's so critical. Because if I don't let go, I'm literally moving through life with the knife in my side. And that brings us to the last part, which is the how. So how do we let go? How do we forgive? And the first and most important element is we realize the importance of it. Because a lot of us don't forgive because we think, well, if I forgive, that means it's okay. And that is absolutely not true. We do not forgive because what the person did was okay. We forgive because if we don't, we are forever linked and locked to that act and to that person. And we literally, if we hold on with anger and pain and grudges and we redefine our lives based on that which has happened, we're literally taking our joy, our life, our freedom, our peace, our possibility, and offering it, sacrificing it on the altar of that person's narcissism, anger, ego, ignorance, whatever made them betray us. They've already stolen from us. Why now do we want to offer them everything else? So we forgive simply because whatever has happened to you, you deserve to be free. And I want to just conclude by sharing my personal story of forgiveness, lest anyone here think, well, easier said than done, or yeah, easy for her to say, she doesn't know what's happened to me, or anything like that. As Arielle alluded to in the introduction, and as I openly shared publicly for the first time ever in my memoir, Hollywood to the Himalayas, as she mentioned so sweetly, I was really betrayed. In the midst of having all of the privilege and opportunity and blessings and all of that I had growing up, I was also very severely sexually abused. I was then abandoned. My biological father sexually abused me and then literally said he never wanted to see me again and walked out of my life. And that manifested later in my life in severe bulimia, in depression, and anxiety, and a whole host of ways that we deal with the pain that we suffer. And when I got to India at 25, and as Arielle mentioned, I was not a seeker. I would love to have said I was, but I wasn't. I got there and met this incredible being who became my guru. And I asked him about fear. I lived with fear and stress and tension. And he said to me, you fear because you don't trust. And I told him my story. Here's why I don't trust. Here's what's happened to me. How can I trust? And he says to me, are you going to take that to the grave? Are you going to give it up on your deathbed? And I was like, God, no, of course not. I was only 25. And he said, are you going to let it go a month before you die? Maybe a week before you die? He said, you're waiting for someone to come in and draw the line and tell you you can be done. No one will. And he said, you can carry it to your grave, or you can let it go tonight. And he said, I want you to stand in the sacred river Ganga. And I want you to give all of your pain, all of your anger to this river we worship as the mother goddess. Give it to her. And I want you to forgive your father. And I, of course, thought impossible. Like rivers just don't sweep away that kind of pain. But I did it out of respect for this incredible being who had suggested it, and just out of a commitment to sincerity. But I knew it wasn't going to work. And I stood in that river and I prayed and I cried and I prayed and I cried. And I gave all of the pain and all of the anger that I could dredge up from inside me. I gave it to her. And I can tell you 27 years later, September will be 27 years since I moved to India. It worked. She took it. And I share this story with you because if I can do it, so can you. It may not be the Ganga for you. It may be the tree in your backyard, the base of that tree in the soil. It may be another river, a stream, a lake, the ocean, a mountaintop. It may be in front of an image of the divine, something sacred to you. But have a ritual and literally just offer it. Dive deep, pull up as much as you can, and offer it. Offer it into fire. Offer it into water, offer it into soil. The universe will take it if you are ready to let it go. And that is not, my beautiful friends, in conclusion, it's really important to just emphasize lastly, that is not denial. It is not repression. It is not spiritual bypass. Spirituality does not say, thou shalt suffer forever. Thou shalt hang on to every bad thing that's ever happened to you, lest someone point a finger and say, you're spiritual bypassing. That's not what it means. Letting go, forgiving. Look at the life stories, whether it's Christ or the Buddha. They are stories of forgiving, stories of letting go. This is what we are meant to do, so that we can actually embrace and open ourselves, as Holly does so beautifully in the book. Open ourselves to that which life offers us. So I could go on all day, but it's time to stop. It's been such a beautiful joy to be with you. So much gratitude to Arielle for not only writing this beautiful book, but for bringing us all together today and for giving me this beautiful opportunity to be with you, and with deep, deep prayers from my heart to yours, that you may find that freedom, which is your birthright, which is your true self. And you can. And so, so, so much love to you all.
Thank you, Sadhviji. That was so beautiful. And if you want to get more Sadhviji, her website is sadhviji.org, and I'm going to spell it for you. It's SAD as in dog, H, V as in Victor, I, J as in Jack, I, sadhviji.org. and she's easy to find. She does satsangs on a regular basis. And as you experience for yourself, she knows a lot about healing and love and spirituality and compassion. And if you love a good read, get her book, Hollywood to the Himalayas. So Sadhvi, thank you, thank you, thank you. I feel so blessed, and I hope I'll be seeing you in a few weeks.
Yay. So
Okay.
much love to you.
All right, take care.